All right, guys, I'm about 10 days removed from killing my first buck here on the new farm. And again, thought it'd be cool to just come kind of break everything down on how the hunt unfolded, what I think were keys to the success of it, as I reflect back on it. Again, I've said before, there's always a lot of luck involved in killing these big deer. But, when I look back on certain things and how it transpired and if this didn't happen or that didn't happen, I probably would have got him killed. It's cool to look back on that stuff. I can learn from it. Hopefully other people can learn from it too. If you haven't seen the hunt yet, you can check it out in the link below, the full hunt. But this is more of a breakdown on how it actually happened that day and the keys to it, especially the access. So that's where I'm going to start. I was able to, all 3 days of hunting this stand in a row, I was able to park up on the hill, walk through. There's this little kind of old cattle gate, and just walk right down this hill. So I'll basically just walk all the way to the stand and kind of show you how I was able to get in and out so clean. That is probably the biggest reason I was able to hunt that spot 3 days in a row, and ultimately the biggest reason I killed that buck. So I was able to just drop down this hill right here. Anywhere I could, this is where I would drop down the creek, but anywhere I could, I tried to clear out the debris on the ground. So you can see I cleared out the sticks. This wasn't the main spot where the deer were crossing, so it was still pretty thick right here, but I cleared it out so I'm not breaking branches every time I'm going in or out. This creek is still a little bit deep in the middle. It's not flowing, but there's enough holes in here that I can't just walk right down the middle of it. I gotta kind of hug this side. There's a nice spot to cross. So that was just one of those things I figured out actually before season, just doing some practice walks through here. It's killer access. But when I was coming from the other side, I actually was wearing chest waders, but this side I'm able to get by with just regular knee boots. So I'd get to this shallow point and cross over. Anytime I'm walking these creeks, I try to stay in the water as much as possible, just from a scent perspective. You'll see there's obviously a lot of trails crossing the creek, and I'd rather not leave scent going in and out on the brush or the ground. Being able to walk through water, I think, in my mind, is just a better strategy. So here's that crossing, and this is kind of interesting. I did see this, and I knew of this, and it's an easy shot to this crossing. This is where that buck, cracked through the ice down through here, and I had multiple deer cross right here throughout those 3 days. But right up above this hedge tree right here is where he was working that scrape, the buck I killed, before he decided to come underneath my tree. He very easily could have veered on this trail and just crossed the creek. And like I said, it's an easy shot there if I had a cameraman, but where I have my arm in base position, it was going to be very, very hard for me to shoot down in the creek or on this other side. So I'm lucky he didn't take, this trail. It wise right here. Comes either across the creek or at the base of my tree. But I'll have to maybe tweak this setup a little bit so I can shoot deer that are crossing, because it's a pretty major crossing right here. So this is where I would come up and down every morning and evening. Again, I tried to clear out everything so that I'm quiet, especially this close to the tree. I definitely don't want to be noisy. I cleared out all the debris, all the briars, everything like that. Those right here. A big chase right here. goodness. 3 bucks on a hot doe, and I about got ran over. I hope that shows up in the video. I was just gonna try to get footage, and then I realized I was about to get run over, and I had to get out of the way. 3 bucks on that doe. I could hear him grunting up above me when I was talking. That was incredible. I mean, look at where his hoof marks on the ice right here are. I mean, I can almost touch them. That was crazy. Anyways, back to the reason for shooting this video. This is where I would go up and down. And the trees right here on the creek bank. You can see all the thorns. Obviously it's a honey locust tree, and it was a bear to clean out when I first hung this stand. It took 45 minutes to an hour just to trim all the thorns off of it. But I knew the tree was in the right spot, so maybe another mini lesson there is don't get deterred, because this thing had 2 big poison ivy vines on it and hundreds of thousands of thorns. And I don't know that I've ever got poison ivy this late, but I definitely did from hanging this stand. I mean, the morning I killed the deer, my eye was all swole up. I got it on my eyelids, all that type of stuff. So just another kind of fun part of the story. But this tree was in the right spot, and I'll kind of show the aerial map of why it was in the right spot. But the access, like I just talked about, but also where I could blow my wind. So I'll walk over here and kind of show, but from up above it's probably easier to see. The creek makes a big S right here, so it creates this little peninsula that I can blow my wind back into. There's no reason for these deer to be right there. They're either going to be traveling out in front of me, or they're going to be up on the hill further before they come down to this creek crossing. So I have a good section, I don't know, maybe it's a 100-yard circle that I was pretty much blowing my wind. And when I hung it, I was like, this is probably going to be best for a lighter wind, nothing above probably 12 to 15 mile an hour. Otherwise, that wind's going to keep carrying probably up that hill a little more. But I think the lighter winds just kind of settled down here in the creek. Obviously, the day I killed it was really, really light and worked out well. But I'll kind of show you what it looks like over there, because there's no reason for the deer to be back there. So it's not like an obvious spot to put a stand. But if you think about, if you're trying to give something up, that's a really good area to give up wind-wise. So you can see where this is a narrow kind of bottleneck of that peninsula. There's just no reason for the deer to go there. The bank is steep over there. They can cross out in front and cross on this side. So I just thought it was a natural place to try to blow my wind. The other side of the creek is a lot higher bank. So it just seemed to make sense in my mind, and that's why I put that stand there. And I actually discovered this stand. I was hunting a different one up here probably 5 days prior, and on my way out I was thinking, man, this would be a really good spot on this side of the creek if I could find a tree. And that was the day I found this locust tree. I immediately went to my truck, grabbed a stand and sticks, and hung the set and got out of there. That was probably 2 to 3 days before my first of the 3 hunts from this tree. I'll kind of give you a look at the trail that he took, or a view from his vantage point. This is the first crossing he came down. I first saw him probably 15 to 20 yards on the other side of that. So came down this, and here's the scrape that he worked right here. And this is when I was filming him work the scrape, trying to figure out what direction he's gonna go. My stand is right up there, and this is where I was talking about, where he could Y off right here. There's the creek crossing where that other buck broke through the ice. Here's a trail that takes him to my stand. And then, as you saw, this is obviously where he picked up a little bit of my ground sinks. He was so close to the tree, and then I was very lucky again that he was able to circle back. And then there was a couple, maybe once or twice, where I could have shot him if I wasn't filming. I didn't have to worry about the camera, but I was really waiting for a better camera angle and shot angle. And fortunately, he made it pretty easy on me by circling out and turning broadside. But again, a really cool hunt, but this setup was really the key to it. You know, I've talked about it before. When I first walked this property, I was calling it potentially the most huntable property I've ever been on, and this hunt, I think, proved it. I just had to find the right spot. And this is a stand that I plan on leaving for as long as I own this farm, because it sets up so good, and I think it can even be improved a little bit just by when I come in here later this winter and do a little TSI. I'll probably strategically block this trail off, and I'd say this whole section of timber from a width standpoint is probably, I don't know, 90 yards maybe in width. So obviously I want to keep the deer within bow range, so potentially lay a couple trees down over there, you know, just while I'm in here doing TSI, just lay them in a more strategic direction. And also there's a ditch that runs perpendicular to this as well, the one that he first crossed, which helps bring him down to this end as well. So it just sets up really, really well, but it can certainly be improved a little bit. But good bedding to the south of me, good bedding to the north of me. This is just a connecting piece. I don't think it's quite narrow enough to call it a pinch, but it serves a very similar purpose. I think if there's a deer using this property really, but at least this area in general, a guy would have a really good chance of at least seeing him, but probably killing him from this spot. It just sets up so good, and again, the access is killer, which is always a big key. So I'm excited for the next hunt out of this tree. I potentially could hunt here late season. I do have food planned out there, and rather than sitting right on the food, I could potentially catch deer coming to it through here. But this is definitely more of a rut movement type of stand. Hopefully that was at least helpful or somewhat interesting to see kind of the breakdown of the spot and how it worked. I always like looking back at stuff like this, seeing what I can take and apply to the next one. Kind of cool, almost getting run over by a chase on a hot doe. But like I said, hopefully that was helpful. Feel free to let me know if there's more you want to see or learn about. I think I covered kind of everything with regards to the spot and the access. As far as breaking down the actual hunt, that's a whole nother topic as far as the self-filming and the setup and all that, but potentially another future video. So appreciate you guys watching.